oh my god, after wearing Luke out with furious lightsaber skills from one end to Cloud City to the other, and after bashing him to a pulp with flying toasters, after blasting Luke out of this window and chasing him to the end of this lonely, wind-blown plank far from anyone who has ever known or cared about him, he lops the little sandboy's entire hand right off. And then, when he's crying in the corner, so sad and alone, defeated, then, and only then, Vader figures this is the best time to say, oh, by the way, I also had sex with your mom.
Oh, snap.
Welcome to this very special episode of the Meta Filmless Podcast. Today we'll be talking about the upcoming film, Star Wars The Force Awakens. We just saw the trailer and we have some ideas to share with you. With you as always is Corey and Mike, and today we also have a special guest, Justin from Spoiler Alert. Don't forget you can find us on YouTube and iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So first of all, couldn't they have called it something else besides Force Awakens? It could have been confused with Force Unleashed or anything else like that.
A New Hope was already taken.
Okay.
Yeah, Electric Boogaloo is what I was thinking. Star Wars Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, that's great. The anticipated Star Wars Electric Boogaloo.
Or Rises. Star Wars Rises.
That could work too.
Yeah, that's or Begins Again. Like, so many bad titles
How
out there.
about Reloaded?
Oh, yeah, I put a number right in it. That could work.
Star Wars Cubed.
Well, instead of an R, it's a backwards 7. Yeah, I could see it.
Like Fantastic Four doing the 4 instead of the A.
Fant Four Stick. Oh, what a
terrible movie. Terrible ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know if Force Awakens is much better.
He's really bad at titling his movies, George Lucas. I know he's not directly involved, although he's probably still there. And like all the titles for all the movies are bad.
This is all Abrams.
Do you think he chose the title of the movie?
Oh yeah, and like they said he's not involved, but George Lucas is actually still involved in the production, just like behind the scenes, right? Like he didn't give up everything completely.
But then again, I don't know how much they want to listen to what he has to say anymore.
Well, that's it. Nobody was telling him no before, and he went completely insane with the prequels.
But here's the thing. Here's the first question I have to ask you about this upcoming movie. Do you guys remember people coming out of episode 1 or episode 2 hating it?
No. Yeah, I do. I remember being like feeling disenfranchised when I walked out of the movie. There's only 2 films I've ever felt that way with.
Okay.
And that's Superman Returns and Star Wars Episode 1. The 2 films I walked out of and I was just like, what did I just watch?
Because I asked the question because I feel that there's usually this aftermath of yes, man, yes, I agree kind of thing. I felt it in Spider-Man 3, and I felt it in Star Wars, and I felt it like people go see these films. I felt it definitely in Iron Man 3. When people come out of these movies and be like, that was amazing, absolutely, and then over the course of like a year or 2, they start thinking back to it and being like, actually, it really wasn't amazing at all, and I don't know what I was on. And
my dad's like that.
Sorry?
My dad is just like that. Like, well, speaking of that exact scenario, it was Fantastic Four, the new one. We went and seen it, and he's like, no, I liked it. And I'm like, the whole movie was in a warehouse. The whole movie. They left the warehouse for the other dimension and came back to a warehouse, Dad. He's like, yeah, but the thing was great. I'm like, do you remember in the trailer where they dropped the thing? He's like, yeah, that was great. I'm like, where did that happen in the movie? And he's just like, that movie was terrible. He's like, where's everything that the trailer promised?
It's the hype leading into it. You know, everybody's so hyped for certain things that you just, I can't wait to see this. This is going to be so awesome. And then you see it and then you're like, no, it wasn't.
But at the same time, are we partially blinded by this? Us preparing ourselves saying, it could be terrible, or let's not be caught up with the hype, or let's be open-minded, or let's be critical, or let's be easygoing with it. We're coming out of it with so many different things being bombarded about this upcoming film that we're coming into it, and I'm sure when we come out, there's going to be the sense of moral confusion of, is it awesome? I think it was awesome. Some of it was definitely awesome.
So is that the fear, is that we're going to go see Star Wars and we'll be so hyped that we'll hype ourselves into it? It's good good scenario, and then posthumously looking back, like a year after, we'll be like, wait a minute, why was this happening? Or, oh my God, why did I think that was good? Because like all the other reviewers will review it negatively.
Well, that's what happened with Star Wars Episode 1. Everybody was so hyped about it. Everybody went in and was like, this is the greatest thing that ever happened. We finally get to do stuff. Pod racing, the lightsaber battle at the end, Duel of the Fates is so good. And then like a year later, everybody's like, it wasn't that great. There's just something soulless about, the last battle sequence between Gungans and droids.
I think it lasted a little longer than that. The hype of Episode 1 was pushed into the VHS release, and then now finally on DVD, and people ate it up. I felt the Episode 1 thing lasted quite a while, all the way, I think, into Episode 2. I think it was the disappointment of Episode 2 that people started looking back, being like, okay, this trilogy is not going in the direction I want it to go. But I think
I actually liked Episode 2 better. I'm one of the few people who, and like posthumously on that as well, a lot of people didn't like the Yoda fight. And they're like, I can't believe he just like channeled the Force. Why doesn't he do that all the time? Like, still to this day, I'm like, that Yoda fight was bomb.
I'm sorry, I still can't get past Hayden Christensen. He's too whiny. I apologize. Yeah.
He didn't redeem himself.
I've read the novelization of Attack of the Clones, and there was cooler scenes in the novelization than there were in the movie. The movie itself tried too much to focus on the love story. They had to rush that. They had to like make them connect as fast as possible, so you know that they bone and they have Luke and Leia.
The chemistry-less love story.
Whereas there's a lot more they could have done with Anakin's onset of anger when slaughtering an entire village of sand people.
I didn't like that at all.
And the book had a lot more politics in it, which people really didn't like about Episode 1.
A big complaint of the actual new trilogy is the politics of it all. All the, embargoes and the Trade Federation wanting this and the blockades and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, the first episode started with that scroll, like where the classic scroll of, the embargo and this and 2 Jedis. And I saw Mr. Plinkett's review on Red Letter Media, and he mentions that he's like, they're not 2 Jedis, it's a Jedi and a Padawan, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, the whole thing is flawed from the beginning, and he's like, and why is this like 2-paragraph block about politics when nobody knows anything or cares?
Well, they're trying to set the scenario back in Episode 1 and trying to figure out, no one knew what was going on back then, and they were trying to set up a whole bunch of stuff that they were going to do with the Coruscant. They were going to set up all the different pods with the different countries coming in and taking over the Senate and all that kind of stuff. And they were trying to set up a lot of things with Episode 1, and they were getting a little ahead of themselves and convoluted and a little bit too focused. And what people liked about the original trilogy was how simple it was. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and if we're going to start reflecting on what we saw in these trailers, it definitely feels pathetically black and white of, here are the good guys. Listen to the music cues. Listen to the music cues. And then here are the bad guys. Listen to the music cues. They're clearly covered in Nazi colors. Look at the black and the white and the red. These are the bad guys.
Yeah, and that's something that the prequel trilogy was trying to get away from, because the whole thing with Anakin going evil, they wanted to have a morally gray trilogy, and they wanted to imply the moral grayness of the whole world that's not black and white, especially for Anakin, right? And I feel they've lost a lot of that in making that series. It didn't come through as strongly as it should have, but that's what George Lucas was aiming for, is this trilogy is morally gray, and that's how he turns to the dark side. It's not as obvious as, say, Luke's life is, where the good guys dress in white and the bad guys dress in black.
Yeah. It's also the Republic is established as good from the very beginning of episode 1, episode 2, and even throughout most of episode 3. The Jedis are leading the Republic, the troopers are their friends, and it's only in the last 35 minutes that suddenly the Republic becomes the Empire and everything goes ball bad.
Yeah, Order 666 or something like that?
66.
It was
Order
something...
Satan.
Yeah, well, that's what it was supposed to be reflective of, right?
Let's shoot lasers at Jedis who can easily deflect them with their freaking lightsabers, but now they can't.
It's not enough that he's betraying the Jedi Order. Let's have him kill children. You know?
No, implied killing children.
No,
That's
he openly admits it.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but
They don't show it, but like, yeah, that's the whole thing with that. Is just like it was like George Lucas didn't understand what the gray of being bad looked like that moral quandary of like the child who's drowning, right? You walk by, you didn't push him in. Is it your obligation to pull that child out? Well, if you didn't push him in, then passively speaking, you don't have to pull him out. But if you did accidentally push him in, you're morally obligated to pull him out. Like that sort of passive, it's not my responsibility to help people, is more evil than the guy who pushes that one child in. It's like, and that's something I think Star Wars, the prequel trilogy, would have been better off addressing. Like Batman's like, I don't have to save you, is actually pretty evil, right? So that would have been, I think, a better like slow transition for Darth Vader. He's like, yeah, I want to bring order to the galaxy, but there are people I don't have to help.
But at the same time, it has to do with, at least in the film, you don't really get why he turns to the dark side. The scene is just so poorly acted and so poorly put together. Of suddenly he's like, you should go kill younglings. Okay, I guess I'm evil now. So
yeah, I got a kid on the way, but I'm just gonna kill kids anyway.
So yeah,
that's messed up.
It was just so poorly implemented because there was this period in the film where just, okay, now the Republic is going to be the Empire and our heroes are going to become the villains. And everything's just going to go all bad by the end.
It would have been better if he had been like, I've been told to go kill all these people, but like he helps Yoda escape with the younglings. And he's like, I don't have to be 100% evil. And you see like that dichotomy of character where he's like, I'm not 100% evil, but I do work with the bad guys now. And then like that idea of later on in like the new trilogy, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and Empire, when you get in Return of the Jedi and you see him looking back and forth, the idea of like, now I have to let my son die. I didn't let those kids die. Why would I let my son die? Right? And then it would have been that much more powerful in that moment. But like George Lucas just was like, no, he's evil now. The end.
The parallel that I like about the prequel trilogy, if we're going to focus on that for another few seconds, is I used to think Episode 1 was basically a remake of A New Hope, and the more I looked at it, the more I realized that actually the entire prequel trilogy is a remake of A New Hope. And I know that sounds like a far stretch, but pretty much when you see A New Hope, it's established as the protagonists are running away from this evil empire, and they go down to the sand planet where they meet this kid. Now, that's parallel with, of course, Episode 1. But if you think about wanting to establish and just flush out Episode 4 just that much further in order to really understand all the intricacies, who is this empire? Where did it come from? Who are these rebels? Where did they come from? And if you were to look at the entire Republic fighting against the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and the parallel of the independent system as being the Empire and the heroes rising up against the Empire, and so on and so forth, the rise of Anakin Skywalker is a similar parallel to Luke Skywalker in the sense of he's found on this planet, he doesn't know what's going on, he gets caught up in things beyond him where there's this conflict between one giant group of space fighting people and another group of space fighting people. He picks a side and joins them, where in one story he becomes kind of the hero of the thing, the other story he eventually becomes the villain of the whole thing. But the parallel is the same to me of this one movie, whereas Empire shifts away heavily from that, and so does Jedi. So I stopped seeing, there's the one-to-one parallel of Episode 1 to Episode 4, but then I started seeing the entire prequel trilogy as just a giant remake of A New Hope.
Well, that's because they're trying to do Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, and The Hero's Journey, or The Hero of a Thousand Faces, was very well told in Star Wars A New Hope. And trying to do the hero's journey to evil doesn't work. The villain's story is a very different journey than the hero's journey. And I don't think they really matched that up very well. Like, trying to redo Luke Skywalker's arc for the prequels was a bad idea. Which leads me to the next question is, do we think that's going to happen in the new movie? Do we think they're going to just, from what we've seen in the trailer, do we think they're going to just redo the hero's journey again?
From what I could gather from the new trailer is that you have hero on Sand Planet who dreams of bigger things, who's led to bigger things by another guy who lands on a planet on the same planet that brings them together to search out a pilot to take them off the planet so that they could go fight this evil new empire that's been forming.
And Death Star, giant planet-destroying thing.
Just to find a giant planet-destroying thing, only to find that all the mysticism and all the myths are true when they come across The Last Jedi.
And both of them, coincidentally, are also Jedis. Who are potential Jedis. They both can use the Force as well, because you see them both holding lightsabers in different moments. So
do you mean like Finn and Kylo? Yes. Kylo Ren? Okay.
Yeah. So to me, from looking at the Force Awakens trailer, I thought, and I'm sure you thought as well, that it was going to be The Empire Strikes Back some more. But the more that I've thought about it over the last couple of days, the more I realize that it's A New Hope. Yeah. It's
there's more New Hope.
The closest to a remake of Star Wars that you can get without calling it a remake of Star Wars.
That's we talked about
my opinion.
We talked about J.J. Abrams fan servicing when we were talking about the poster.
Yeah, but if you want, like, a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to have fan service and stuff like that. It's like, if you wanted fan service, there's decades of stuff that you can use. Like, you're setting this movie 30 years after, which is perfect. You know, it fits perfectly to all the original actors' ages, and that's great. That's fantastic. But why scrap an entire continuity where you can just build off that?
Yeah,
I mean, is it too
agree,
confusing?
100%.
Is it too confusing? Like, I can understand how it can be confusing to new watchers, you know, especially like me taking a child to see it, that they can relate to it easier, as opposed to me having like 30 years worth of continuity and then somehow in the movie see General Thrawn hanging out in the background like, hey, I know that guy. That's fan service. The fan service that they're playing for in the movie is quips to the original trilogy, and then anything that you can fit in from Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi.
Okay, so I got a question for you, and you and Mike can probably answer this pretty straightforward and honestly. Corey, how many people do you think have read the Heir to the Empire series by Timothy Zahn? Timothy Zahn?
Timothy Zahn.
I've read it.
I've read it.
I'm sure Mike has.
I have not, actually.
Mike hasn't gotten that far.
I know, because I'm actually reading it chronologically, not the order in which it's released. I actually don't know the word for that, so I've been trying
the canon in order.
Yeah, the canon in order of release. I've been reading it in order, and I'm right now reading all the Rebellion stuff, so I haven't actually got to the book versions of 7, 8, 9, which he should have made in the 90s once the books came out.
This is where you can start to differentiate between a Star Wars movie fan as opposed to a Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. And by Star Wars fan, and the reason why I emphasize that is that that's somebody who's seen the TV shows, who's read the books, who has breathed so much Star Wars that it probably hurts. But in a good way.
They've downloaded the Ewok movies in the holiday special, right?
There's nothing wrong with the Battle for Endor.
Battle for Endor is good holiday special, man. It's a diamond, man. It's gold.
But the fan service that they're going to give you in the movie is in regards to the movies.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's the movie fans they're heading for, because I think that's the major population. I think that's
I
the
agree.
film population that's... You ask the average person on the street, and they know who Luke Skywalker's dad is. That's Empire Strikes Back. They know what an Ewok is, even though they never say Ewok in Return of the Jedi.
Do you know how hard it is?
The person knows that.
It's hard for me to accept the fact that Chewbacca is standing there next to Han Solo, realizing what Chewbacca did in the books.
So good. I'm watching the trailer, and some people saw that and be like, "Yay, Chewbacca and Han Solo!" And as much as part of me was just like, I'm so happy that my favorite heroes from my youth are back together. Another part of me, very aware that yes, Chewbacca does die in the books, and
they drop a moon on
approximately when this movie was supposed to take place, Chewbacca would be dead. And seeing that just confirmed the already known fact that they were scrapping all the books. Mm-hmm. A part of me didn't fully believe that. I thought they were going to keep what they could and just gave themselves the flexibility to ignore stuff if they felt like it, and not directly acknowledge what parts they liked and what parts they didn't. I honestly thought that they would try to make it fit, at least with, and if stuff didn't work, they just could shrug their shoulders at it and say, well, we said it wasn't going to fit in. But when I saw Chewbacca standing there at the end, I was just like, okay, it's very clear they're just throwing out the entire new Jedi Order is just thrown right out. Forget that.
I do think they're going to keep a couple things. I think Mara Jade is going to show up. I think she's going to be in like episode 8 or possibly 9. You don't think so, Corey? No?
No. If they scrap the entire like continuity, there's no way that that's going to happen. The only thing that you could really have happen is you can have Boba Fett come back, sure. Because he escaped the Sarlacc pit regardless of any continuity, because people just dig Boba Fett. They're definitely going to go their own way in this, and you're not going to get anything from the original canon.
Isn't the film that's rumored to go between 8 and 9 going to be the Boba Fett movie?
Rogue Squadron?
There's Rogue Squadron, and then
that's
Boba
between
Fett
7 and 8.
Rogue Squadron is about the group of rebels that stole the plans for the Death Star in the first place. So that takes place between 3 and 4, and then the Boba Fett's going to be, the explanation of how Boba Fett probably got into the Sarlacc pit and then escaped from the Sarlacc pit, and then did his own
story,
his own Mandalorian story. Oh, it's so many Mandalorians.
It's going to be an origin story. We all know Boba Fett's going to go origin story.
Yeah, but anyway, that's speculation. But one of the things that I want to point out is that they've already started to build on the continuity of this movie, with Marvel Comics having the rights to publish all the comics.
Releasing more stories of Lando on Cloud City is really not building any continuity.
They've introduced Han's wife,
Oh yeah,
who happens to probably be the mother of our our secondary main character.
Don't say it.
Finn. Yeah. So Han is, and this is going to happen, I swear, Han is Finn's father. That's right. And the other thing that bothers me too is that they took this awesome romance between Han Solo and Leia and just kicked it to the curb. It's what you expect in a sequel, that these people got together, they were so in love, they were so happy by the end of the movie, and then they just went their separate ways for...
Are we expecting the cliche, they have to rekindle their friendship?
No, they're going to rekindle their romance in it.
They're going to backpedal every single character to the beginning of New Hope, where Han and Leia got to come back together, Luke's got to join the crew, and recapture the Force, because he hasn't had it in a while, because the Force is reawakening for some reason. Like
the interesting thing is that Luke is going to take an Obi-Wan Kenobi stance in this film.
Yeah,
he's the one that's going to be the mentor, and then chances are Luke is going to be the one that goes up against Kylo Ren and falls in order to teach them something about being a Jedi.
Agree.
Hence Obi-Wan Kenobi. The other curious thing that I have, and I just want to throw this out there for the sake, is that Kylo Ren has, who's our bad guy, we've established, has the burned out helmet skull of Darth Vader. Where did he get that? Luke stood there and watched his dad burn to ash. Where was Kylo Ren on Endor?
He went back, found the grave, dug it up.
And dug it up?
Yeah, I've heard of people going after Charlie Manson's stuff at his house. So, it's not out of the ordinary.
Are we completely dismissing the possibility that Luke Skywalker is Kylo Ren?
No, he's not.
No, he's not. Adam Driver's playing Kylo Ren?
Yes, Adam Driver's playing the body of Kylo Ren, but it's just like some guy played the body of Count Dooku while they superimposed Christopher Lee's head on top of it so that he did all the fight scenes.
Glorious.
If all the Skywalkers are doomed to go crazy, then...
Oh, I've got a theory on this. I have a theory. Okay, so in the poster, Kylo Ren, top left-hand side, and then you have Rey in the middle.
With She's got her bow staff paralleling the lightsaber.
Because they're twins. They're Luke Skywalker's children.
Oh, that's not
bad. I like that.
I like that because that gives more precedence to I will finish what you started. That's cool. You know what? I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna hold you to that one. If that happens, I'm gonna buy you something nice.
This is why I think Mara Jade's still alive, or maybe dead, but she's in this continuity. Luke started the school, met Mara Jade, had children in this continuity, which he doesn't in any other, and then he has the twins instead of Janny and Jason. We're gonna get Kylo and what's her name? And that's the twins. Instead of having Han Solo and Leia have the twins, we're going to have Luke have the twins, and it's his own son turned to the dark side. His son that he trained and loved, and, he's not a Sith. He's technically a Jedi. He was trained as a Jedi.
Okay. Then what was her excuse? Where did she go?
Did he separate?
He did the classic thing, which is send her on the desert planet, which is
not Tatooine, by the way, which is Tatooine, but not Tatooine.
No, I think Kylo went kind of batty with I believe the Empire was right, and his sister's like, his twin sister's like, how could you betray us like this? And she goes off to the desert to be on her own and be depressed and upset, and she's just like, I don't want anything to do with this. This hurts too much. And now she's there.
All I know is that it's going to be a fact that they are killing off one of the original members.
And I think Kylo's going to kill his father, Luke.
Hence why Luke isn't on the poster.
Well,
Luke isn't on the poster.
Well, the big thing about the film is where is Luke is the common trend that's floating around right now. He's not in the trailers. He's not on the poster.
What was the planet on New Hope? The one the Gungans are on?
Naboo.
Yeah, he's on Naboo. He's gone home to his family's home planet. He's on Naboo.
Right.
That's my guess. That's where they come from. That's where the Queen's from, right?
Yeah, that's true. Oh, he can't go home to Alderaan. We all know what happened to that.
Too soon? Too soon.
Too soon. I swear to God, if there's a planet called New Alderaan, I'm gonna call it a day right there.
And they got gangs of New Alderaan. Well, that's where all the trade happens.
Does anyone know the name of the stormtrooper that has the cloak?
Phasma. Captain Phasma.
Okay.
That's played by Gwendolyn Christie of Game of Thrones.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. She's built like a tank.
She used to be on Doctor Who as well. She was like a companion for, I think it was the 6th Doctor.
So what are you guys thinking is her story?
I think there's this whole thing about like leaving the clones behind and hiring independent people and training them. Mm-hmm. And that's where Finn comes from, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're like, yes, the Empire or the New Order or whatever it's called. And like she's one, and she's like deeply, powerfully dedicated to the New Order, right?
So is she like a commando?
I think she's going to be the most dedicated zealot that the Empire or the New Order has ever seen. And that's going to be juxtaposed to Finn, who's having like a loss of faith. And I like, even in the trailer, there's this whole implication of that.
I can see Finn being part of the New Order because that's what his dad, Han Solo, did before he became a smuggler.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not actually very clear because the books and the stuff that's all based on is not actually canon anymore. So as far as we know,
do whatever they want
far as we know, Han Solo was born into slavery and had this whole backstory. And until we see this Han Solo prequel movie, as far as we're concerned, he could have been a belly dancer for all his years.
Mike,
and
you are a buzzkill. You are the worst.
You know what the worst thing about this is that there's 30 years of unexplained stuff that has happened now. We're going to see all these characters in new situations, doing things that we never thought that they were going to do, and I want an explanation now of what happened in that 30 years. But this is probably going to happen, and I can guarantee you this. You are going to have flashback sequences in a Star Wars movie.
No, you take that back. You shut your dirty mouth. You take that back.
We're going to have flashback sequence.
Mike is doing the Wayne's World Doodaloo flashback thing. So he's waving his hands like he just don't care.
That would totally ruin everything.
If they do flashbacks in Star Wars, I'm going to walk out of that film. I'll be the one guy who throws his hands up in the air and says, I'm out!
On the bright side, though, they've started counting the lens flares in the trailer.
Corey's already hitting on one important thing, is that these characters in these films have been around for so long that there's a lot of backstories and there's a lot of things that have been established for quite a long time. We've just hit on Han Solo used to be, let's say, a member of the Empire because that was referenced in various different small bits and pieces of extended canon and blah, blah, blah. So much so that you may not even be aware of that because you've never heard of it or read it yourself, but you may have been able to pick it up from all the different times it's been repeated. Mm-hmm. And the amount of little things like that have floated around throughout geek canon of understanding what happened here and there between the popularity of Shadows of the Empire and popularity of even the Ewoks TV show. There's so many things that have been established in the extended continuity that have become just common understanding that people walk in. If you start doing a Han Solo prequel movie, Young Han Solo, that contradicts that, you're constantly going to be pissing off people.
But we're a small group. Like, that's the reality, is we're talking such a small percentage, and you'll hear them say it over and over and over again, especially related to comics, that real fans, there's almost none. They don't count.
We don't matter anymore.
Yeah, I have a list on my phone of stuff they say about us. It's pretty bad. It's bad.
But here's the thing, though. Like, and I'm gonna keep saying this for forever now, but you make something like this, there's going to be people that are going to love things, and then there's going to be people that don't like things that happen. So no matter what happens, no one's going to be truly happy with whatever The Force Awakens is. There's going to be cool things in it.
I disagree because, like, realistically, if they make a good movie, I'll forgive them. I'll forgive them for changing canon. They already announced it a long time ago that they're changing canon. So if if J.J. Abrams makes a tight film that's well acted with good special effects, which it already looks like all the creature effects look really good. If it's a tight movie, I will say, okay, this is this path that the reality went on, and I'll be ready for the sequel and what they do.
I'm somewhere in between the two things that we just heard right now. From one hand, I'm willing to take a step back, forget everything that I know about Star Wars with the exception of the 6 films and the Clone Wars show, and try to approach this fresh as them trying to establish a new cinematic universe with trying to set up a whole bunch of other stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I am willing to watch this film with that kind of breadth, and that's what Disney is asking from everyone, to just see what it is we want to throw your way. Now, I'm willing to accept that, but I think what part Corey's picking up is forget all the expanded universe stuff, even forget the prequels. Fans of the original trilogy who have their own conceptions of what a sequel will look like after all this time. It's been 32 years since the last Star Wars film, according to some people, if you throw away the prequels, and you just sit back and you have so many preconceptions after 32 years. And this is a sequel in all its respects. It does say Episode 7 in the opening scroll. They've said so. So this is not a reboot. This is there's very little parallel that we can do. Superman Returns could be the closest thing that we could be paralleling to. So what happens after 32 years of people who have sat back and loved the original Star Wars trilogy, didn't care for the prequel, saw them once, said, I don't really care, but have preconceptions of what is that? They're going to come in to watch this movie, and there's going to be elements of the stuff that worked in the prequels. Look how many colors are on the poster.
Oh, yeah, and how many people are on the poster? Oh, my God, there's so many people. There's
that poster,
30 people on that poster?
Poster is the most convoluted poster I've ever seen.
There's prequel stuff all over this. The thing that that people don't realize is that you look at the original Star Wars trilogy posters, or even the films, they're not this colorful. You look at the prequels, Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber, and there's green lightsabers, and Yoda's green, and that's contrast against the brown guy, and there's so many colors, and it's all about the colors and the special effects, and the meteorites being red rather than black, and this poster and everything that I've seen with these films is all about making it a shiny, colorful, shiny thing that everyone can look at. So that's prequel stuff all over it.
The trailer doesn't look that way, though. The trailer looks like A New Hope. The practical effects are strong. Like, there's still CGI in there that you can see. This is made in 2015, but like they have guys in suits. Like when Finn gets patted on the shoulder by Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac, he turns around at slow-mos, and you see the Millennium Falcon there, and there's guys running, and in slow-mo there's one guy in a suit, and I was just like, oh my God, they got guys in suits in this. This is like Godzilla quality awesome.
And it's not a CG Millennium Falcon. Whenever you see the Millennium Falcon on the ground, that's a practical effect.
Beautiful.
You know, that's one of the things that has kind of got me feeling kind of good about the movie too, is that J.J. Abrams employed practical effects and it wasn't filmed on a giant green screen.
And I think that's what the prequels failed at. Like, there's a scene where Grievous, I think his name was, he's mostly robotic. He's got very little organics in him. I think it's General Grievous. He's there with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi's a Jedi. And he reaches in and pulls out like 6 lightsabers or something stupid like that. And when he does that, it's very quick. It's very snap. And like, it's the kind of thing you step back from. You're like, you know, I don't want to be in the danger zone. I want to have reaction time. But Ewan McGregor, as an actor, is on a green screen. So there was no actual reaction to something that's going on there. And like, I remember watching that and I'm just like, oh, he's steel-hearted.
He's that cool and collected.
Were the Wookiees CG?
Some of them were dudes in suits in Revenge of the Sith, and they were mixed in with CGI Wookiees.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. All right.
The scene that always gets me is, I can't remember exactly which film it was, but there's a very simple scene of Anakin and Obi-Wan walking through the Jedi Temple. And that is the scene that angers me more than any other scene, because they are real and everything around them is fake and they stand out like a sore thumb. Now, when you throw them on the lava planet and that you tone down the lighting so it's not as clear, those scenes look fantastic. Yes, it's very clear they're not on a lava planet. This was not filmed inside a live volcano. But it looks real and cool enough, even though it's ridiculous beyond question. It still looks real and cool enough that you forget that how much of it is green screen and so on and so forth. But just something as simple as them walking through this hallway where it's very clean, it's very simple, they stand out like a sore thumb, and the prequels are riddled with stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the CGI is painful.
It was too big for its own good, is what the prequel trilogy suffers from. It's the big grand sets and the shots of Naboo and the shots of like everything. And
so the other thing that we need to talk about when it comes to Force Awakens is this is not your standard reboot in another respect. Reboot, sequel, whatever you want to call it. Remake, as we've established. There's another aspect, is we are now living in the world of cinematic universes. There's talk of a Ghostbusters cinematic universe. There's talk of all kinds of cinematic universes floating around out there. And very clearly they're using the established material of the original 6 films and the Clone Wars animated series, and now they're building up
Rogue Squadron. The untitled Boba Fett movie, which should just be called Mandalorian.
I agree.
There's that new animated show,
Rebels.
Which is cute. It is a cute TV show.
The thing is, what this film is trying to do, there's a lot riding on this film. Mm-hmm. This is like, the only parallel I can think of is, what if the Avengers was the first film that Marvel released?
But neither of them are. We're not talking about, like, Avengers was the first and Episode 7 isn't the first.
But what Episode 7 is trying to do, it's trying to build a level of credibility of these new Star Wars films because they've already launched into production a significant prequel to this film, a sequel. They've already confirmed another sequel, and now
That's Marvel. You're talking about it. It's a really good parallel what you're talking about, because like Avengers was what? Like they had Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Hulk, Thor, Captain America. That's 5 movies at least. And then they did Avengers.
But when they started writing Iron Man and when they started putting together, they already knew that they were going to be making Avengers.
Yeah, they pitched it all. They pitched it all as one giant thing. That was the whole thing with like Perlmutter and all those guys there. Is like they pitched it that way. We're doing 5 movies or 4 movies and then a group movie. So like they were always, so like the Hulk had like Tony Stark in it, right? At the very end. So like, and like S.H.I.E.L.D. in it. They were always heading in that direction. Mm-hmm. And same with like the post-credit scene in Avengers, which really started that whole, this is stay for the end because we're going to tease the next one, right? So like that was the whole thing. And like Star Wars has technically 9 movies already if you count like the holiday special and the Ewok movies. It's got 9 movies already.
Do those count? I don't think those count anymore.
They are canonical.
Canonical.
With it, they are.
I don't know if they are, and it pains me to say it because I love the holiday special. I love watching Carrie Fisher high on coke trying to sing. That's great.
I'm the only one that likes Little Nomadic Bears. Like,
I love that too. That's great. Like, I love the Caravan of Love.
Courage?
Yeah, they're so bad. Sorry, I love them.
I like the guy that narrates it like he's narrating like a National Geographic animal special.
Like, all the side stuff Star Wars did was so bad, and like Alan Dean Foster wrote Splinter the Mind's Eye, which was supposed to be Empire Strikes Back, and it's just as bad as everything else. You know, like.
Well, he's also writing the adaptation of Force Awakens, so.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
They got Alan D. Foster back? I'm so ready.
The question is that it's so unique, this film, because it's trying to reboot sequel on previous established material, but at the same time they're trying to build a level of credibility towards all these future films. Now, let's say for argument's sake, what if this movie is just terrible? You know,
that's not going to happen.
It's not possible. J.J. Abrams is like Zack Snyder. Both of them direct visually cinematic, brilliant films, right? No matter how much you hate Man of Steel, it's cinematically brilliant.
Sure, but you know what? There's lots of films out there where people walked in and did not expect to hate it as much as they did.
Okay, look at it this way, all right? Star Wars is already going to bank money. All theaters in the U.S. are sold out for the first weekend. There is no way this movie is not going to make money regardless if it's good or bad. I never said it's not going to make
money.
No, if you say
it's going to be like bad, like film review, low rating, is it going to be a low rating bad film?
Like Transformers made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay? The most recent Transformers film. This is the kind of ish parallel that I'm looking at. Everything that we've seen is shiny, which is what Transformers is selling. It's big and it's shiny. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just asking a question. It's just in the sense of, what if this movie is basically trying to do what Transformers is doing, make big, shiny explosions that look all CGI? The question is that this movie is trying to create a certain parallel of credibility towards 5 more films that they've already slated for the next 5 years coming. This movie is trying to do already something very, very new. It's doing. Actually, the closest thing is Harry Potter.
7 films. When
they made the first film, they already knew that they had to make a whole bunch more.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the closest, but they already had the books ahead of them. So in that case, they had the scripts, so to speak. So that's, again, there's nothing really ever been done like this movie.
I don't think it's going to be bad. I think the lowest rating it's going to get is 6 out of 10. Honest, there's going to be people who are going to throw out 6 out of 10, and that's the lowest rating it's going to get. And like just from knowing J.J. Abrams, like watching how he handled Star Trek, you know, like I got my gripes about Star Trek, the painful pandering to the fans. Oh, look, Kirk is sleeping with a green alien girl. Oh, look, Spock's so logical. Oh, you know, like it's all that sort of stuff that they did. Oh, look, Sulu's fighting with a sword because he's a sword fighter, and if you're a fan, you know that, right? Like, and then when he did the sequel, what was it, Into Darkness? They're like, Khan, and he's just like, oh, you know that moment where they touch hands? We're going to inverse it.
Oh, I don't want to talk about Into Darkness.
But that's the kind of fan J.J. Abrams is. You got to understand that.
Yeah.
We've taken that guy who used to work at a comic shop, and we've given him Star Wars.
And I didn't say that I think it's going to be bad. I'm just saying that Episode 1 has a 6.6, Episode 2 has a 6.7, and Episode 3 has a 7.7, which is actually really surprising. I didn't know that about Episode 3.
I think Episode 2 is the better of the trilogy. That's me, though.
But what I'm saying is that people walked into, we're going back to the original conversation, people walked into Star Wars Episode 1 expecting the same kind of tone and feelings and expectation that we're seeing with Lucas is back, and he's writing it and directing it and all this kind of stuff. And there was the same level of anticipation. There's actually a book written about the anticipation of Star Wars Episode 1. And
okay.
And what I'm feeling right now in the air is the same tone, the same conversations, and the same feelings towards Episode 7. And those feelings didn't go away for a number of years after the film. And there's a certain level of, they're banking on the fact that people will be all over the next film before they even get a chance to forget this film.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Like, there's a movie called Fanboys.
Yeah.
Where they go to see Episode 1. They sneak into Skywalker Ranch, and then the one guy gets to see it, and he gives absolutely no review of it. after he sees it because he's dying of cancer. He's allowed to watch it, and he gives no review of the movie. But it's the idea that he got to see it ahead of everyone else. And like the build up and the anticipation of Star Wars, there's a zeitgeist to it that's strong. Star Wars is loved. It is the space opera that we all love. Firefly tried to get into that, and like it got pretty close. Like there's a strong Firefly following. Battlestar Galactica, the remake TV show, was really good, and like it pushed the whole political side the way Star Wars never did, and it was really good. But now we got Star Wars back, and that zeitgeist is still strong. It never went anywhere. Doctor Who's trying to fill that void. It's what other space operas are out there other than Doctor Who? Stargate came and went.
It was around for like 14 years.
What I think Justin's trying to say is that there's nothing cinematically comparable to Star Wars.
J.J. Abrams actually made it. It's called Star Trek now.
Not even Star
Guardians
Trek.
of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy has that same sort of silly sci-fi, but like space opera feel. Guardians of the Galaxy is the closest to Star Wars that I've seen in 20 years. Anybody got any others that are close?
No, like I said, it's the end all be all space opera.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter which way you look at it, if there's a new part coming out, everybody's gonna be a part of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that this movie's going to make money. I have no doubt that a lot of it's going to be really cool. And I'm just trying to identify the fact that what this movie's trying to do is so vastly unique to any other film ever released, not only as a remake slash sequel slash reboot, but establishing the first stages of a new cinematic universe, building off of an established cinematic universe.
Yep.
And they're wanting,
it's a tough place to be.
They're wanting to make sure that people are okay with way, way, way more Star Wars than they've ever had rammed down their throat for the next 6 years. If not indefinitely. From now on, every Christmas will be Star Wars Christmas. And that may sound amazing from this point of view right now.
But then you have to worry about the one thing. Like, sure, you're going to get 6 years of Star Wars. And yes, it sounds amazing. You know, I can't wait to watch, like, Rogue Squadron, which is going to be like the Top Gun of freaking Star Wars. You know, like, that's going to be great. I can't wait to see that. But then the question is after, like, the superhero bubble's gonna burst, or it's burst already.
No. As long as they're making good movies, people will go to see them. Batman and Robin proved that. Batman and Robin was awful, and then Batman Begins came out, and people jumped back on the train. So long as the films are good, people will go to see them. I know they compare them to what, like Westerns? But, like, Django Unchained was good. I enjoyed Django Unchained, you know? Like, if a fad comes out and things are good, people will see them and tell their friends they're good.
Which makes me worried about people. Anyway.
Now we're talking about humanity.
Yeah, wow. This just took a turn. Regardless of the fact, there's going to be the scare that it's going to burn out. Not in 6 years.
Here's what is interesting. They are doing with it is that they're making sure the next film isn't somehow related to this film. Is that they're shoving it as a prequel to Episode 4. Okay, that sounds great. So if you're encouraging people to watch this film, go back and watch the films that preceded it, and then you have another movie that's taking place somewhere in between. Okay, that's great. Then you have the sequel, Episode 8 to this film, and 9, the third part of this.
Plus a Boba Fett film in the middle.
And the rumor of a Boba Fett film in the middle somewhere. But the idea is, where will the Boba Fett film be fit? They could easily throw it in just after Revenge of the Sith, where he's like 13 years old.
Oh yeah, total prequel film. I totally agree.
And they can make a Boba Fett trilogy that takes place during Revenge of the Sith, a few years following Revenge of the Sith, and just after Revenge of the Sith, and that's your Boba Fett trilogy. All prequel stuff to even Rogue Squadron.
Him hunting Wookiees and killing them, getting that whole band of Wookiee braids. I'd love to watch that, man. Hunting down Rogue Wookiees, man. That'd be great.
There's no denying that the next 6 years worth of Star Wars is going to be pretty cool.
And fun. If it's good or bad, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
What I'm excited about, the reason why I love the expanded universe and all the books that I've read, is Star Wars, the main movies and the main books are great. They are classified to me as adventure movies. because they go from one planet to another planet and so on and so forth. And they're great adventure movies. But in a sense, Rogue Squadron, as you said, Top Gun in space, that sounds great because it's not going to necessarily be about Jedis and the main stuff happening. Some of the best books that I've read was the story of a clone trooper in the ditches on the front lines, fighting a war for years on end on one planet. He doesn't understand why he's doing it, but he knows he has to do it, and he's watching people around him die, people who look like him, shooting robots that all look the same, and there's this huge philosophical contrast that is going on throughout this whole book, and it's more of a war epic of this one guy's tale dealing with this battle and how he's going through it. Now, that's really interesting. What makes these Star Wars books so good is any scenario that you can dream up, you can throw in a Star Wars scenario and just build it on that. Now,
so you're talking about adding, like with the Rogue Squadron and the Boba Fett movie that are coming out, and wanting to tell these stories of all these different characters. Again, I ask, why throw out the expanded universe when you have all that rich detail?
Because now you can take all the best parts and just rehash it any way you feel like it.
I'm not saying it to be like a downer or anything like that. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that, yes, I'm going to take it as a fresh take, and I'll go in with an open mind. But there's so many different stories that have been told, or you can tell.
And that's what I'm hoping for, more than just repetitions of A New Hope over and over again, and more guys fighting in white outfits, shooting badly and hitting their heads against stuff. Like, as much as I'm excited to see that over and over and over again, and lightsaber battles, it's what I'm interested in is seeing what more they can do with it. Can they tell a Western, a proper Western? I don't mean as a Western type film, but I mean some guy who has to go save a girl, and get in his speeder and go to the other side of some alien planet and so on and so forth. Like, tell any genre of film that exists out there, from a samurai movie to a Western, you can do in a Star Wars setup.
They did 7 Samurais. Episode 1 was 7 Samurais.
But I'm saying not in a Jedi. You can do a Jedi huge kind of thing, but more of something completely different than these standard super epics. Now, the main Star Wars episodes, episode 1, 2, 3, and so forth, these are reserved for the main story pivots. Episode 2 is the pivot into the Clone Wars. Episode 3 is the pivot into the Empire. Episode 4 is the pivot into the Rebellion. And Episode 6 is the pivot out of the Rebellion and into the New Republic, so to speak. Now, these main movies are the main pivots, and putting stuff between them is great, but it's how deep and how specific are some of these stories going to be. And that I find even more exciting than some of these larger epic stories.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of potential to do a lot of different stuff and to appeal to a lot of different audiences. I think that's what they're doing. Specifically doing, they promised a Han Solo film, a Rogue One film. What else do they do? Boba Fett film. There's all sorts of promise to appeal to different audiences while still continuing the regular series. And the regular series is going to progress our characters. Each trilogy picks a set of characters and progresses them forward. Whereas episode 1, 2, and 3 was Obi-Wan and Anakin. We're going to progress them to the end and see where they start, humble beginnings to the end of their story, the grandiose end. Same with 4, 5, and 6 starts with Luke and his humble beginnings to his grandiose end. We're going to get this one with Finn, Kylo, and I can't remember what's her name.
I want to say Rihanna, but I'm totally off.
No. That's Han Solo's kid, is Rihanna.
I got the best example of what it is I was talking about. I want a Darth Vader killing people movie.
You got that. It was Revenge of the Sith.
No. I want the movie from Darth Vader's point of view, of Darth Vader being Darth Vader, and the movie starts with Darth Vader, and he's doing his thing from his point of view, and it's this huge thing about his mission. The Emperor has told him to do some stuff, and it's really hard, and he finds all these Jedis, and he has to go fight them, and I want Darth Vader kicking ass. That's what I want to see.
Movie. I know what that movie would look like right now. It's episode 3.5, and it's I need you to bring peace. I need you to bring peace to the galaxy. Now the question is, how deep do you have to stack the bodies to make peace, right? How many religions do you have to end? How many governments do you have to wipe out to make peace? Because everybody's got their own ideology, and he's on a mission to make peace for the 100 and odd different universes. And that means anybody who opposes his diplomacy has to die.
Yeah, there's a movie there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a dark movie, but I'm because you have the established Darth Vader character, what was missing, really missing from the prequel trilogy is people wanted Darth Vader. I wanted Darth Vader to show up halfway through episode 3. And so I could see Darth Vader doing Darth Vader stuff.
I didn't want Darth Vader in episode 3. I wanted it to end with Anakin in a morally gray place. And you don't know he's having kids.
Yeah, but then they had to
end there.
Anyways, the name of the female lead, her name's Rey.
So it's Rey, Finn, and Kylo.
Yeah, those
so
are
none
three.
of them have. Do any of them have last names?
No.
Rey does not. Kylo, I'm assuming, is Ren.
That's the group of Jedi he's a part of. Kylo of the Knights of Ren.
Okay, so for all we know, Rey and Kylo's last name is Skywalker, and that's why they're not included here because. And that's why Finn doesn't have a last name either because it's probably Solo. The only person that I know of that's a character is Oscar Isaacs as Poe Dameron.
Wow.
Other than that, no one has any
predictions. What are our predictions for this movie? What is going to happen?
Well,
who's going to die?
Luke's going to die. My money's on Luke Skywalker or Han Solo.
My money's on Han Solo because I think Harrison Ford
Is
really is just fed up. Like he's made that very clear for a long time that he's really fed up with Indiana Jones and Han Solo. Like if you were to balance out interest versus performance, I think it's going to be Harrison Ford simply because he doesn't want to do it anymore.
So you think he's going to be the not threshold guardian? He what's it called? The guy who pulls everyone in. There's a word for it. So there's always one guy who brings everyone into the adventure, and then there's one guy who's a mentor. Both those characters, they could be the same character or they could be separate characters, but both those characters can equally die.
Yes,
right?
I think he is definitely, as we've seen in the trailer, through every version of the trailer, it's been Han Solo saying, "Come, you the viewer, come watch this movie."
Han Solo is going to be the tentpole. He's going to bring everybody in together, like you said, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Luke is definitely going to play a mentor.
So we got the mentor and the herald. So Han's the herald, Luke's the mentor.
Yeah. So the herald's going to die because that way everybody comes together. Everybody comes together under the herald, only to have the herald die.
But at the same time, we have to take a step back and understand that as much as Harrison Ford doesn't want to do it, Han Solo is the most beloved character possibly in all of cinema.
Which is why it would be awesome if Han Solo just died.
Yeah, it would be good. It'd be powerful.
Actually, which gives more precipice to the fight that you see between Kylo Ren and Finn there at the end of the trailer, to have Han Solo come in and step in front of his son to take the final blow and die to save his son so that they can get off the planet away from Kylo Ren.
Yeah, if he's like, there's a scene where he's walking into all these flags. Han Solo's leading Finn and what's her name again?
Rey.
Anyway, the girl,
Rey.
Finn and Rey, under all these flags, there's a Mandalorian flag above them. He leads them in, and I think it's to Luke, and they refuse to train under Luke, right? She's like, "That's my dad. I know who he is. I'm not going to train under him." And they leave, and because of that, you get Han Solo's son there, and because of that, when he fights Kylo, he's going to die. And like if he had trained under Luke, maybe he would have been stronger, better, more apt in the Force. And like there's going to be a certain guilt aspect to like, I could have trained, I could have taken this, that, my dad brought me to a guy who knows what he's doing, and I rejected it.
That sounds
right?
good. That sounds
that's a third point.
Yeah. This movie can go anywhere right now. And the more the discussion goes on, the more I really, really, really want to see it.
Oh yeah.
But the reason why the last names have not been given is because they are all somehow related to the original main characters.
And you know what would be great if they weren't? That would
No,
be,
you're wrong.
That
I
would be
reject reality and
fantastic.
substitute it with
You're
my
wrong.
own.
No,
You're
that
wrong.
would be fantastic. You know what? Obi-Wan Kenobi was not related to Luke Skywalker in the original film.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't. In the
not
original film, he was
genetically,
not.
but
He was.
You trained his dad.
No,
He
not
wasn't related.
not in the first movie. He wasn't.
Not in a familial way, no. But he mentions there was a young Jedi who turned against everyone, and this, that, and the other. And I have his lightsaber. That's your dad's lightsaber. Oh, Darth Vader's a different guy, I swear.
Yeah.
I kind of told you where it lie, but
But what I mean is, what really grinded my gears during reading some of the extended comics and so on and so forth
these aren't the droids you're looking for.
is how let me say it this way. Anakin Skywalker building C-3PO is basically the summation of everything I want to say.
Oh, it's so bad.
See, this is the point. It would be great, absolutely fantastic, if none of these characters were related to Luke Skywalker, and yes, it's a big, huge soap opera about these characters who all love each other and all have sex with each other, and everything goes in circles for generations and generations.
You're giving Corey a seizure. I can see it right now.
But that's how it works on something of this grand of a scale.
Yes, on
Look at all
planets
the
of
big,
millions and millions of creatures through thousands of galaxies far, far away across from each other, everyone is related to each other.
I buy it. I'm good. Justin's with me.
Yeah, no, it's the Doctor Who thing. Jenna Coleman, who's a companion to the Doctor, she said if you apply logic to it, then don't watch the show. You know, like
I've
that's
crossed
the whole
time
thing.
and space and
Yeah.
planets
I like-
beyond time, and yet
Exactly.
we're related to each other.
But
Don't apply logic to it ever.
yeah, but that's the best thing about it. You know, it has that sense of familiarity or family to it as well. You know, like this is the story of this lineage going,
Yeah.
you know, hundreds of years, you know, and that's what makes a lot of good books really good, because it deals with that lineage. You know, let's.
And
I know it's a fantasy.
Skywalker building C-3PO is one of the most painful things, and that's
Oh, yeah,
in canon.
100%.
And that's in canon. And
All right. Granted, yeah, that's the most painful thing in the universe, but having everybody else related isn't that bad.
No, yeah, following the stories of family members interacting with each other is awesome. That's Game of Thrones.
Because
Right? That's the thing.
you have this group of characters that have done so many amazing things together. It's almost impossible
But there's
unfathomable, but that no one's going to hook up.
There's a certain
You know?
aspect of Liam Neeson coming to the planet and finding this random kid and being like, I want to train this kid. I've never seen this kid. I'm not related to this kid. I don't know this kid. I didn't even know I was going to find this kid, but I found this kid. I embraced the living force and all that junk that he said. And he found this random kid, and this kid got mixed into the whole big business of everything else that was going on. And he met other people, and other things happened, and so on and so forth. And it would be really great if these weren't, if Rey and Finn were not just kids of the established characters, if they were just new people who have different...
But they're not going to be. You're too smart, Mike. You're thinking of like a college level, university level type thing. The reality, if you take quantum entanglement and every other math, the reality is they're not going to be related.
Oh, and I had sex with your mom, Mike drop.
Yeah, but we're not talking about logic. We're not talking about things that make sense.
Yeah, it's
the
not
Force
supposed.
doesn't make sense.
No, none of this. It's fantasy, fictional characters. Okay.
I get that, but it's starting to just sound more and more like The Bold and the Beautiful rather than a space opera.
But you know what? We like it because it's set in space. Okay. It sure beats watching an afternoon soap opera. I get mine in space. That's why they call it a space opera.
1,000 points to Corey for that.
You know. Regardless of
it's awful.
But my overall final thought on all of this is that I'm going to pay money to see this. I may pay obscene amount of money to see it more than once. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if someone's like, hey, have you seen Star Wars? Because I could use someone to go with, I'll be like, I'll go.
Yeah, same.
I'm not denying it.
We've established that this movie will bank.
And I know for a fact personally, there are going to be things about this movie that I am going to lose my mind over.
In good way or bad way?
In a good way.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'm sure too, in the end, after some quiet reflection, I will find things that I don't like about the movie. But as Justin said before, it's not going to make or break the movie. It's just the way that Star Wars fans are built, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I know on some level I am going to enjoy the hell out of this movie.
Like, we have to accept the direction they're going to go in. Like, that's a reality that I've already come to terms with. They did it early, and that was smart, is that they're going to go in their own direction. So this is its own universe. So, like, if Han has a black kid and Luke's having twins, that's okay. I'm like, okay, this is this universe where that happened, right? And I'm going to enjoy where that goes and what happens with it and the back and forth, the cinematic joy that I have been offered. I'm going to watch it and I'll be like, okay, what happens next? Which is the whole point of, like, the Marvel connected universe and the future DC universe and, of course, the Star Wars universe. Where are they going? What are they expanding on? What are they going to give me? And, like, I'm going to wait with whatever cliffhanger they give me for the next episode to see what happens. And that'll be fun because, like, I know Timothy Zahn was working off nothing other than the extended universe. I know the Knights of the Old Republic game with Revan was working off can't contradict. That's what they were told. You can't contradict other people's works, right? So yep. I know that, like, in these movies, they're going to talk about old Jedis and this, that, and the other that weren't in the continuity prior. And I'm going to be given something new. And that's what they're working with. And it's going to be beautiful and fun and exciting. And I'm going to sit there in the theater and I'm going to take it in, assuming they don't do flashbacks. If they do flashbacks, I'll absolutely walk out. But that's what I got, and I'm, it's gonna be fun. Whether I give it a 6 out of 10 or less, I doubt it. I doubt J.J. Abrams is even capable of less than a 6. So.
Hey, I was throwing out just devil's advocate related stuff. I was just trying to see the different angles that we could explore here and the different things that we could talk about. And yeah. I have to throw out the same level of optimism that I did. I can't remember what movie it was for. Is just, what if it's good? What if it's really, really good? What if it's the fanboy dream movie sequel that everyone has imagined?
We have to ask right now, what do we think we're going to rate it as? I'm going to say I'm going to rate it as a 7. Right now, here and now, from the trailer, what it's depicted, it looks like a 7 out of 10. It looks like it's going to annoy me.
I'm going to give it an 8, but if they mention midichlorians, I give it a 7.
There's been told that there was no mention of midichlorians. I have a prediction that I'm going to really like it a lot. Okay, I think I'm going to come in there and I'm going to be blown away because I'm going to mostly take my critical mind and put it in a box and put that under my seat and collect it after my movie experience. I think, for the most part, it's going to be great, not because I'm a ridiculously big fanboy and I just want to see it. I just think that with this amount of time, effort, what they're trying to do, I would sincerely hope that enough people are sitting down and with notepads and trying to figure out, okay, this cannot be terrible, because we've established the previous trilogy that they just made was terrible. And
no, it wasn't. It wasn't terrible.
The point is, in pop culture phenomena, it's established as hated. Hated. And the last thing they want, which Lucas did not get while making the original trilogy, was the last thing they want is for this film to be hated.
I agree.
Yeah. Disney's got a lot to bank on this, so.
Disney's good. Disney's really good at what they do. Like, even you think about like the animated Disney films, not the sequels, just the straight films. How many of them are terrible?
Well, we kind of talked about Disney in our last podcast a little bit, and under a microscope, there's a lot that Disney does not do well.
Yeah. What? You're liars.
So.
What do you mean Lion King isn't racist?
We can come back to Disney another time, but there's a lot that Disney does that is not very good.
All right. I think it'll be good, and I think we all agree that there's a good potential of it being good.
Yeah, I think so. So if I were to throw out, I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think I'm really going to like it.
Oh, wow, you're bold.
Yeah, I think out of...
And this is coming from you, Mr. Skeptical.
I've said this before when I said to you, before I saw a trailer or anything else, I just have this feeling I'm really, really going to like it.
You know what? That's like my biggest, a happy feeling that I have, as well as a fear that I have.
I hate all the trailers, though.
They're all good. What do you hate about the trailers? All the trailers have been very promising.
Watch the prequel trailers. They're actually better trailers in the sense of this is
I always see Yoda on that seat. I remember it being in high school, downloading that trailer on the worst bandwidth I've ever had in my life, downloading that trailer, and it was awful. And I remember watching it, and I'm like, oh, that's how Yoda looks? Okay, I guess so. And I remember thinking that like, oh, I guess Frank Oz is dead, so we got to deal with whatever they give us.
I remember watching the episode 1 trailer. I remember people paying money to see Meet Joe Black, to see the trailer and then walk out of the theater.
That hurts. That hurts to hear that. And yes, I see people doing that as well.
So the episode 1 trailer, I remember the week that it came out, and I walked from theater to theater because I was working in a movie theater at the time when I could do that. And I walked from one theater to the other theater, and I saw that trailer at least 20 times in the first week it came out. And
this is before YouTube.
This was my YouTube at the time.
We're aging ourselves right here.
But the excitement that I got before episode 1 came out was really high, and I don't have anywhere this excitement of coming into this movie.
I agree. The excitement was through the roof.
I find the trailers underwhelming. I think they're...
What's underwhelming about them? What for you is underwhelming?
For one, I think in the newest trailer, it's the music.
Overuse of the original?
No, not the overuse of the original.
Soft tone.
Yeah, it's the soft tone of it. The one thing that I can praise the trailers for and the teasers for is that they show you nothing.
Yes, I do like that a lot.
It's been so long since I've seen a trailer that gives you nothing. Because all of this has been speculation, everything that we've been talking about.
I also like the fact that they've released this trailer and called it the final trailer to inform you very clearly there will be no more trailers.
Lies! All the lies in the world. I think that's a dirty, rotten lie. I think there's going to be a second, and a third, and a fourth.
And to be honest with you, the more that I've thought about it, the more that I think that the trailer is a bit underwhelming because it doesn't show you a whole lot, and that it doesn't show you like mass action scenes or big, huge space. You don't really see space at all in it, and it's Star Wars. The other thing too is because it was so underwhelming, I want to see it more because I want to see this stuff.
That's kind of my feeling as well in a different way.
Yeah.
Quick side note, because Corey and I recently watched Hell's Angels, and I recently watched the scene from Aviator, there's an interesting note which is Star Wars relevant. He films the scenes of these planes flying in the sky, and he says they look like models, they look fake, and then he kind of has the snap moment. That's because there's nothing contrasting against them. You can't see what they're flying against. So J.J. Abrams, in filming some of these scenes, the reason why we're having all these land battles is because so you can see where it is they're flying and what it is they're flying against. In Revenge of the Sith, you have the big ship and they're flying above the big ship, so you have the contrast of where it is they're flying. Whereas in Return of the Jedi and even in the original Star Wars, there's just all these ships flying around and you can't tell, because they are models, but you can't tell what it is that they're trying to be doing some of the time. So what this film has done with those land TIE fighter battles is really show the contrast of how they're maneuvering, how they're flying on the ground as the contrast to what it is. That's why you're not seeing the space.
But the other thing too, what it alludes to is like how awesome is, because you know you're going to get it's Star Wars, you're going to get a fight in space by the end of the movie. You know that's going to happen.
Are they going to blow up the new Death Star thing at the end of the movie?
Who knows?
I hope not. I hope they don't.
You know what?
I hope lasts to number 3. That it is an overarching threat, unlike Darth Maul.
It looks kind of like
Darth Maul dead right in the first episode.
That would be cool if they actually did. Like if the big reveal of it was at the end of the movie as they blow up a planet, and then like everybody's like, we gotta go.
Yeah, like the whole idea of like, oh my God, we're not strong enough to stop this.
Yeah.
And then they go off and you get that Empire Strikes Back ending. Like, that would be powerful.
Yeah.
That'd be
we don't
like,
have an exhaust port on this thing.
yeah, we're not ready for this.
Yeah.
And then it leaves it open to the next episode. And the next episode, they're like on the run. And then the third episode, they're like back for action. We're like, we figured it out.
So one of the things that we haven't mentioned prior to this recent trailer is Corey and I have been chatting back and forth for years about this, and we've established that this film would be Empire Strikes Back some more. That it would be...
That was the last trilogy. The last trilogy was supposed to be the dark one. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 was supposed to be the dark one. So this has to be the coming back and preparing themselves to win.
Well, they've already kind of won. I think this is the new Empire that has formed together, and they're striking back.
Okay, so Sid Fields wrote a book called The 3-Act Play. The 3-Act Play, regardless of Star Wars numbering, is structured like this. Episode 1, or Part 1, is the build-up of the heroes, what they're capable of. Part 2 is how they fail miserably. Part 3 is how they work hard, montage, and become heroes that win.
Oh, there you go. That's Star Wars.
Yeah. That is like A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. So like episodes 1, 2, and 3 are the sequel to 4, 5, and 6. In that you see just how bad it could be, right? You get your Anakin and him like turning to the dark side, and that one guy in that right place can turn it all dark, right? And so now we have to have the destruction of the Empire. This has to be the heroes coming back.
Didn't they do that in the last movie?
No, it's not about a single movie. We're talking about
when you think about it at the end of Jedi, if you take out all the canon, there are going to be rogue factions of Empire troops out there, and they're going to be out there for a long time. And even though their emperor is dead, they're going to still find something to fight for.
Yeah, and that was the same with the Timothy Zahn books, where they had Heir to the Empire with, what was that general's name? Thrawn?
General Thrawn.
Thrawn,
not
yeah.
Thong.
Thrawn.
Yeah.
I said Thrawn.
Man, I read this when I was like 15. So we got to tie this up in our thoughts and be done.
I think I'm going to like it. I think there are going to be bits in it that make no sense by accident because they messed up. I think overall it's going to be fun. It's exciting to see the cast back together, and I look forward to seeing it, and I'm happy that this will be the first Star Wars film that I get to see on the IMAX.
Did you buy tickets?
No, not yet.
I didn't get tickets either. I tried.
Neither did I. I couldn't get on any websites whatsoever.
Oh, well, we'll be late with the review like we're late with everything else because we're awesome that way.
Better late than never.
That'll be the name of our new channel. Better late than never.
Better late than never.
All right. Any other final thoughts?
Aside from knowing that there's going to be some level of enjoyment of this film, I can't wait to see all the original cast. I can't wait to see what the new cast is going to bring. I can't wait to see what J.J. Abrams does, and I am a fan of Abrams. So overall, yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this.
As much as I like J.J. Abrams, most of his films are acceptable.
You're acceptable.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I agree. I think ultimately the film is going to be good. It's going to hit all the marks. It's going to be visually stunning. It's going to have sex with my eyes like all the other J.J. Abrams movies do. And when it's all said and done, it's going to leave on a cliffhanger that's going to make me want the next one. And, if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't make me want the next one, then he failed. And he knows that. He knows.
Oh, you already want the next one, and you haven't even seen this one.
That's right. And like that's the whole thing. It's like I was promised a trilogy. Like each series is a trilogy about a particular character. So this is Finn's trilogy. By the way they depicted it, the previous trilogy I watched didn't have a cohesive villain other than the Emperor, and that was so passive in the background it was painful, right? Whereas this one's promising Kylo Ren will be the series-long villain. If he dies at the end of this movie, I'm going to scream Darth Maul at the top of my lungs. I just got to throw my hands in the air and say, Darth Maul! Darth Maul! Right?
As much as
who was that guy that just yelled out Darth Maul and walked out?
Yeah, I'll be that guy that someone else had on his cell phone recording. Yeah, no, it's going to be like they need a series-long villain. They need their Darth Vader. And their Darth
Yeah.
Vader is Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren, as I've said, is going to... Quote me now, brothers and sisters, because I think he's going to be the son of Luke Skywalker.
All right, that's fair enough. Let's see if you're right.
Money on the table now, boys and girls.
Oh, I'm happy with that. I like that prediction. That excites me.
All right, let's leave it there. So you heard our ideas put down in stone, so we can't go back on what we said. What did you, dear listener, think of the Star Wars trailers? Did you think they were a bit underwhelming, or just the best thing you've seen this year? What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think they're going to kill off first? Will this film just be another Phantom Menace? Leave your comments on YouTube or on the Metafilmist website, and we'll pick up on them on the next special. If you made it this far, listen to us, tell your friends about what we're doing, and thanks for listening.